there doing the clap sync was the eyes of someone fascinated at looking at the audio wave in a new form, or the audio file in a new form. You're like, boy, the clap never looked like that before. I could see it. I could see it in your eyes. Video has started, by the way.
Me. I'm starting this today. Okay. All right. I guess I can host this one.
Yeah.
Because you've started the other one, right? So I look really dumb because I've totally delayed it and made this terrible already.
I mean, no.
Like,
I mean, if you want to point it out, maybe. I wasn't going for that. I was just, I really wanted to bring up how you look fascinated about how you were staring at the audio file. I felt like that was quality, so I was like, shit, I need to get the video going for this.
That's fair. I mean, I was trying to do the whole like, well, hello there, but you.
I mean, if you're going to do something like that, anyway, you got to let the person who runs the camera know you're going to do some camera shit, right? That's just how that goes.
Anyway, I guess we should introduce the podcast.
Yeah.
Welcome to Two Pagans in a Pod. I am your host, The Beard. And with me, as always, my pagan brother from another mother. The one, the only. The Fro, Double G.
What's up, everybody? I got invited onto a Christian podcast.
I know. I was going for that whole preacher look right there.
Random.
Which is totally lost on all of our non-visual viewers.
Yep.
Listeners.
I know, it's pretty random. Yeah, I was on TikTok and then I saw, I guess you could call it an apologetics, if you will, but some dude hosts a podcast, another podcast that has non-believers on there. It's the Christian podcast for non-believers. What's it called? The Help My Non-Belief. So yeah, that'll be interesting. I mean, they seem like good people. I've said it before. Yeah. We have no problems with Christians at all around here. We really don't. Oh, ironic, because this episode's kind of going to be us talking shit about their God. Not literally, but kind of. We're not talking shit. We're just going to be going over some disagreement. But yeah, so I will be on that. I'll make sure to let everybody know. I guess on the episode after, it's not like we really have. I guess we do have our Discord. I guess if you're in the Discord, I'll let you know. If you're one of our Facebook groups, I'll let you know. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yup. Which, I mean, yeah, if it goes well, then who knows? We might have a guest on our podcast then at that point.
Yeah, Beard and I, tell us if this is something you're interested in, because I brought it up to Beard. Right. So I kicked around the idea.
I mean,
yeah, well, let me say
the whole fact that you got invited onto one. Oh,
so my idea is essentially to invite this gentleman on our show, because his is more like they ask for, I guess, if you will, testimony, or everyone's like journey of how they got to where they were, and then they just basically talk about that. What I was thinking is we could invite this gentleman onto our podcast and just let it rip, let him just straight up just ask away. So it would give all of our listeners an opportunity to see what an interaction with someone who doesn't know anything about the faith might go down, and how we would go about answering genuine questions someone would genuinely have. Let me know if that's something you're interested in. It's definitely something that could happen.
Yep. Yeah, so before we get too far though, my brain just totally stopped working right there.
Pick up the book.
You saw the hamster wheel just like, yes, the book. We're starting with a stanza. I will be reading, of course, from the translated Poetic Edda of Lady M. Hollander.
And I'll be rating from the focused book or focused publisher, the Study Have 'em All from Huning and Moonin Publishing. I didn't buy it knowing that it was focused. It was a gift. Go watch your video on that, as I said before. But just bringing it up again, Focused Publishing. Buy a different version.
So,
or buy used.
starting us off with
Buying used is an option on this because I've looked more into it. There's nothing wrong with the translators. It's purely the publishing company. So used will not get any money back to the publishing company. So that is an option. Used, eBay, things like that. Or your library.
Good point.
Libraries are a good one.
Assuming that your library carries it.
Yeah, but a lot of libraries will also help you get books. Like a lot of libraries now that they have computers have like
It's true.
a system where they'll mail books to each other so people can rent them out, which will include books like these. If you are a broke motherfucker,
Definitely get
you
in.
do still have options, and some of them are just
definitely get in good.
Well, you don't got to get in good with your library really, because I mean libraries are free, right? You just go with your library card, and I mean I guess you can get in good with your librarian so she can maybe help you find some of the more obscure shit, or like keeping her ear to the floor, if you will, and or maybe not raise an eyebrow.
I've seen a lot of articles of like horror stories of people shutting down libraries or getting books banned out of libraries because they don't believe in the content. Like, I don't know.
I hate the stereotype, I really do. But if there's one stereotype I can get behind, it's the stereotype of librarians fighting for information and books of all varieties, even different thoughts and train of thoughts. Because honestly, it's something I've seen, right? Like most librarians, granted I haven't met a lot, but I have met a few. They're all like, yo, we don't care your beliefs, whatever. If you just grab a book, we're for that. Period. Get people reading. So,
right?
A lot of librarians will have your back. You'd be surprised.
Right.
Even the little old Christian one. Sometimes she doesn't
care.
care. She's just happy or spiritual. You know what I mean? Like they really, really. Most librarians are fucking sweethearts.
Very true. Very true. Very true. All right. Let us start with the stanza.
Starting with a stanza.
Before we get, we're already getting all kinds of derail.
Usually do.
All right. So, stanza line number 4. Because we're on number 4, right?
Stanza line number 4. You just say stanza 4.
Stanza. I know. It's been a day.
The day.
So a drink needeth to full dishes who cometh a towel, and the prayer to partake. This Cash screams in the background. Sorry.
Oh, I heard that.
Good bearing Eck to be well liked and be bidden to banquet again. Yeah, he is full of energy today.
That was a fucking wordy, flowery ass little one you got there.
Yeah, like I have 2 annotations in this one.
Let's hear the second one then.
And so the first annotation is referencing a towel, which is water for washing one's hand, and a towel were offered before a meal. Oh, so like here, wash your hands.
Oh, it's just giving context to why they said a towel. All right. All right. So yeah, I have coming in with the bray first. He craves for water, who comes for refreshment, drying and friendly bidding. Marks of goodwill, fair fame, if 'tis won, and welcome once again. The warp. Water to him is needful. Water to him is needful, who for refection comes. Oh boy. A towel and hospitable invitation, a good reception if he can get it. Discourse and answer. Bellows. Water and towels and welcoming speech should he find who comes to the feast. If renown he would get and again be greeted, wisely and well must he act. Very interesting ones. This one definitely probably heavily ties into the last one, right? Last one's like, get the man some dry clothes, get him some warm heat. This one's like, get him some food, or get him some water, refreshment, and some conversation, if needed.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that these are very centered around that hospitality aspect.
These are very, very much so
The
around
visitors,
the welcoming aspect of the hospitality too.
yeah,
Like these are all like
very much so.
all this shit's being observed or followed within the first like half hour of your guest showing up, right? Like you're getting
Right.
dry clothes, you're getting them. Like it mentions the towel, and I'm glad yours had the annotation for the towel to kind of elaborate on that a little bit more, like for cleaning your hands, wiping your mouths, getting ready for food, right? So it's not necessarily because I would have assumed towel for drying, right? Because the last one was about coming in from the fire in the cold, and being from the wintry place, we know that often snow will tend to make you wet, right? So I would have assumed that's what the towel is for, but it's good to know it's like, no, this is like now we're preparing for the food and everything too. So getting very, very
Right.
interesting. It's starting off with a stanza though. It's gonna take us forever to get through
Very
these,
much so.
but
Right?
I feel like it's also
It's
better
like,
than just
how
doing
many?
like a 2 minute TikTok video like most people do. Which don't get me wrong, I attempted to do that way back when, and then I got to like stanza 30, and I'm like, no one watches these, and they're not very interesting. Which was very unfortunate because I actually put on every single one of them, exchange thoughts, like trying to get people to have a bit of a conversation about it. But let's be real,
I mean,
I
in
was on
total,
TikTok
it's
asking for people's opinions and trying to have a conversation. Of course, it was just never going to work out.
right. I mean, in total, there's 165 stanzas. So that's 165 episodes of content right there.
Up until we decide that maybe we should start doing like two at a time.
Right. I think like definitely towards the end, because a lot of the ones toward the end are very like you get into like a couple of them that are all kind of just in order to understand the next one, you had to have been paying attention to the one prior,
I mean,
kind of
honestly,
thing.
you could say that about the starter ones too, because like we could have read four
That's
and
fair. I
five
mean,
or 3 and 4 like back to back, but
true. Very true.
I also kind of like just doing the one. Like you said, it'll be 160 some odd episodes, so
Right.
fuck ever.
You know,
That will
it's a
be
good,
around
it's
that
a good
long.
like landmark for us.
It'd be crazy to think if we ever did actually like stick around that long, but I highly highly doubt it.
I mean, if we have content where we can only do stanzas one at a time for another 161 episodes, we are clearly doing something right, or we've devolved into something completely different.
Yeah. Although
Or maybe a bit of both. You never know.
we have actively talked about like including and doing just a little bit more, and we also like the whole thing was never like for us to come be authorities or any sort of teaching figures by any means. We're just, I don't even want to say leading by example. We're just being examples, right? We're not even like, I guess, lead if you want, like follow, I guess if you want, but we're just like showing you that, like, hey, other Norse pagans out there exist. Other Norse pagans out there are struggling from decade long pagans to, I've been in it a year now, like a little over a year, but still relatively fresh to some, right? Especially you go around some circles where it's like, oh, this person been pagan for 2 decades. Like, holy shit, fucking. And granted, that's a little bit few and far between, but I mean, there are some like long term pagans out there. So like, and we have a lot of newer pagans though. Like I would say it's a disproportionate amount to under pagans under like say 3-4 years of practicing or being pagan or identifying as pagan is way larger than the rest of it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily common in other religions either. Probably in other like quote unquote younger religions or revived religions. Like I'm sure obviously like Hellenists have the same exact thing, but or like Cometics.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
I
It's
mean,
just
I would imagine.
yeah. It's just nice to basically show examples. And again, so that's all we've ever really tried to do is just be examples.
Yep. Rose, it's a better example than I do.
I mean, it depends on what you're talking about.
That's fair. And with
Because like
that,
you
what
were
are we
definitely
talking
able to
about
do
today,
like
bro?
a better example of the crafting aspect. Because I definitely don't have the crafts down quite as much, but I'm also a little limited in workspace, work tools, because I don't have many tools, and yeah, just things like that.
That's that's fair. I
My
mean,
housing
this whole
situation doesn't
area
allow
is
for like I just couldn't go out and like have a bunch of power tools and shit.
I mean, my whole desk area is my work space for tools and all. So
That's
anything I
fair.
do, I have to like clean up all the sawdust stuff when I work on wood stuff, and then when I'm doing brewing stuff, I got to put like towels down or wipe stuff up, have
All
stuff
right,
ready to
that's
go to
fair.
like
That's
clean
fair.
stuff.
Maybe I should shut up. Maybe I got just as much space then.
So I mean, what you see is literally the space in which I do everything, because literally to my right is my kitchen. So like I could literally like ro- roll backwards a couple feet and open up my fridge. Uh, but that's the extent of my house. We have a small house for a family of five, so um, which is like like in our altar episode where my desk also doubles as my altar too. So it's just capitalizing on the space that you have, really. So I mean,
Yeah,
you can make
I'm
whatever
lucky in
work
that
for you based
aspect.
on what you're trying to do.
I don't have to double down my desk as my altar. I do have like dedicated altar space.
That's fair.
But to be
Eventually,
fair,
I would like my.
my altar is literally a vanity. It's a kid's vanity that was going to be thrown out. That I was like, hey, hold up, I got a better idea. And I threw a fucking altar cloth on it. Had my kid, well, you guys saw. Had my kids paint some runes and decorate it up, and it's like, it works as a pretty damn good altar.
I mean, it looks good to me.
And not to mention, it's because it was a vanity, right? There's a drawer on the bottom that slides out that I'm able to keep some. I mean, I usually keep it's more of my like crafting stuff. I don't want to get destroyed, but I am able to keep some cinnamon and a lavender packet, as I like to mix cinnamon and lavender together for a nice potpourri, basically. Mind cleanser. It could smell good. It just smells good. That's all. It's potpourri. So
If
I
it helps
guess
get you in
the
the
more
mindset,
witchier
then it
type
does the trick.
may be inclined to call it a spell, but you know that the atheist goblin sits on the shoulder sometimes and says, "No, it's just potpourri."
Don't listen to that goblin, bro. Don't listen to that
Well, I
goblin.
mean, sometimes you got to listen to atheist goblin, so you don't go the wrong way. But
That's
sometimes
fair. That's very fair.
he's just not right though.
I just realized that I've been doing this entire
I
time
say
since we started
atheist
recording.
goblin. I should say like your skeptic goblin.
Yeah, skeptic
Well,
goblin.
what haven't you been
But
doing this entire recording?
What I have been doing? I've been doing my lip smack again.
Yeah, I'm over it. I'm just gonna start fucking noise canceling it.
But have I really been like? I thought I've been doing better at it. Have I not been?
I'll bring it to your attention, but I can't be asked to remove them all. You do it way too terribly much. It's like me and my ums. I can only really be asked to do it when it's getting pretty obnoxious, or if it's like standalone and I can see it. Because now that you see how we look at the audio file in Waveform DB, right? The ums have a very distinct shape to them when I go about them. And they have a very distinct placement to them as well. Because it's usually at the end of a sentence, right? Or it'll be at the start of a sentence, but it'll be after a pause. So there'll be a pause in my sentence. So I can like, I've edited my own audio enough where I can look at it and be like, all right, that's what it is. Or coughs. I'm getting pretty good at coughs. I used to smoke cigarettes and weed while recording, but I never did video recording on my other podcast. Lighters, I could literally pick up lighters, like, boom, there it is. That's a lighter. But I don't do that no more, so I don't have to worry about that.
But
the funny part
would
is
make
because
you a wizard, Fro.
yeah. The funny part is on the last podcast is it took forever because it started off with just me and another dude doing the editing, and he was also a smoker, so neither of us said shit. We both knew what was going on right when we edited, and then the other two started editing the podcast, and it took them a couple of weeks before they're like, "What the fuck is all this like flicking sound we hear on your guys' audio?" Because neither of us have one, or because neither of them were smokers, so it didn't click to them. And it's like, oh, yep, that's us smoking. My bad. I was worse than he was because he was a vapor, right? Except he was one of the Vape Nation people. Did I bring up Vape Nation people?
I don't think you've brought up
Did I?
Vape Nation
Okay.
people on our podcast yet.
I vape. Y'all see this, right? I vape. I do the thing. You know what I don't do? I don't give a fuck about what fruity tooty flavor you got. I don't give a fuck what nicotine you're using. I don't give a fuck about what coil, what casing, what battery. I don't give a fuck about any of that. I don't give a fuck about how big of a cloud you can do. I don't give a shit if it makes you feel good. I don't care about your vaping. I am a nicotine addict. I'm here to get my nicotine, and that's it. Fuck off. Leave me alone. I'm not one of the vape douches. Y'all know, everybody knows a person that I'm talking about right now. I'm not that dude, right? I'm not saying I don't enjoy some of the good flavors here and there. Vaping's not my life. It's a thing I do. Period. That's my rain on vape douches. Okay, go ahead, Beard.
So with that, let us get into the meat and potatoes. Because there's not really like too many like, I mean, I guess there are plenty of tangents that we could go with this one. But the as we dubbed it in the notes, the Tri-Omni no-no.
I like to have a bit of fun with my notes, the Tri-Omni no-no. It's probably not what I'm going to title this episode. I'm probably going to title this episode that God is not Tri-Omni. That's probably going to be the title. But the long version of it is, I don't think the Christian God, as described by the Bible, can possibly exist with the Tri-Omni traits. Period. Oh, yep. By the way, sorry, pagans, after this 23 minutes, which I'll probably edit down to 22. I'd probably cut a minute. This actually isn't about paganism, this episode. It's a somewhat overdue episode on a rebuttal of Christianity, if you will. Specifically, the Tri-Omni traits. Oh, yep.
Perhaps, in case for listeners who maybe not overly familiar, what are the Tri-Omni traits from?
So the Tri-Omni traits are omnibenevolent, omniscient, or omnipotent, or omnipotent, right?
Omnipotent.
Omnipotent, yep. I'm sorry, I'm always hesitant to say that because I always fuck it up and say impotent. And I'm like, nope, that ain't it. Those are two totally different things.
Well, I mean, depending on the argument.
Nope, those are two different things. Being able to do everything versus not being able to get your dick hard. Those are two opposites. So, also known as all-loving, all-seeing, or all-loving, all-knowing, and all-powerful. I don't think the Christian God is that, period. I think at most, God could have, or Yahweh, I'm going to refer to it as Yahweh, at most can have two of the Omni traits. But I realistically think that a God, in this case Yahweh, probably has zero or maybe only one of the Omni trait. So, get into it a little bit of why is the problem of evil basically comes up, essentially, right? And you can have different axioms, and axioms are just basically explanations of the why evil exists. Some axioms are that the existence of evil will allow for greater good, or other different arguments. Anyways, I think that basically the existence of evil is one way to prove that a Christian God is impossible, and there are just other logical inconclusions, right? So, for instance, we could look at you have the interpretation argument, which is one way of proving that God either lacks capability or knowledge of something, and both of which, or one of which, would either remove his, all powerful or omnipotent, or the other one would remove his all knowing. So, for instance, if we have the interpretation argument, right, or TIA, in a roundabout way, essentially states that if God's all knowing, he would know how to communicate his message in a way that every single person in the world would be able to understand it. If he was all powerful, he would be able to do that, would be able to communicate his word in such a way where everyone would be able to understand it, right? And if he was truly all loving, he would put his word out to be interpreted in a way in which everyone would be able to understand it, to go to heaven, right, instead of going to hell. Now, either God doesn't know how, right, because there's numerous different interpretations of the Bible, so he was unable to do it by not knowing how, or God lacks the capability to do so, or Yahweh lacks the capability to do so, right? He could know how to, but not be able to, right? And is only restricted to a vision or text, right? And lastly, or he's not actually all loving and is okay with some people misinterpreting his word and not eventually going to their heaven or his heaven and then ended up in hell. Do you need a minute, Beard? I see you look rather distracted.
Continue onward.
Well, did you were you does that all like making sense to you though?
Yeah. I mean, it's all, I'm on same page with all of that. I mean, and it's trying to think of how to articulate this thought. Like when it comes to, when you're looking at just the Christian God with these different omni traits, I mean, it's really hard to get behind it in any way, I feel. Just because you can argue on any of those bases, just, well, why didn't he make himself known in this situation? Or why didn't he make himself known in this situation? Why didn't he fix this? If he knew that this was going to happen, why did he let it happen? Why are all these bad things happening? Blah, 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 blah. And then, like you said, it gets into the whole him being, good simply because he's good. But if he's good simply because he's good, then why? Again, you get back into the argument of why did he? Why do bad things happen if God is so good and God made us in His image and this, that, and the other thing? And that's like when you really deep dive into Christianity, there's just so many loopholes, so many. I won't even say loopholes. There's so many gaps in the thought processing that it just, which I mean, and I can understand it. A lot of it is just you have to just believe, which to some extent applies to us too. I mean, we have to believe in what what we're interpreting in the way that we're interpreting it. But at the same time, too, it's to try to bring it around into a pagan aspect. I mean, outside of what, like, Mimir, um, God, the guy who they turn into the mead, Cavalder? Cavaldi? Why am I drawing a blank on the name, bro?
Evaldi?
Yes. The guy who they kill and turn into the mead of poetry.
I do not remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie, the
I think
creation
that sounds
story
right.
for myself has been something like I've looked into Gunning and like how it works and all that, but the creation story to me isn't too terribly important, honestly. So just to pull back the veil a little bit, I believe that science is a gift from the gods, right? That if the gods
Right,
did
I
make
would
this
agree with
world,
that.
right? Science is a tool that is part of this world that is proven so far to be one of the best ways to examine the world that we're in. So if there is going to be a way to prove anything like that, where we came from, I do believe we will be able to through science, or that'll at least be our best attempt to. Um, so I haven't worried a hell of a lot on the actual creation myth. Um, that's just me, and I'm also just not overly concerned of where we came from. I know a lot of people like super fascinated about it, but yo, dude, I can't even fix my mistakes from yesterday or earlier today, let alone can I do anything about billions of years ago. So I just haven't really worried about it a hell of a lot. It would be fascinating to know. I would love to know because that like I do love science and I do like I watch a lot of fucking like fact shows and shit. Like I love that stuff. Um but as far as like putting my faith or anything like that, I just haven't cared. Like I would like to know just to know, right? That's like in space in general. Like I love space and all that. And I love learning about all the different like astronomical bodies and like scientific anomalies that are out there.
Right.
None of it affects my religion though, because my religion is wholeheartedly just like we have non-physical minds interacting with us here and now on this planet. Everything else is irrelevant, whether or not there's more of them out there, whatever, or even the ones that are here are able to interact with fucking something or somebody on Pluto, right? Not that I think things are alive on Pluto, just threw a name out there.
You never know.
Because guess what? We don't know the name of the planet where aliens live at. We don't, so, because we haven't found it yet. And if you don't think that there's aliens out there, you don't understand probability. I mean, we could be like a 1 in a fucking quadrillion fucking chance. And there's enough planets out there. Well, guess what? At least twice. Like the chance would have to be so fucking small for it to happen. Only once. Like, oh my god. Anyways. We don't get talking about really crazy. We could talk more about like how that would
feel better,
actually.
Fro.
Yeah.
I've heard that soul is a pretty hot topic on Mercury.
Sorry. I was trying not to respond because the same exact moment you told the story, someone decided to just start beating the shit out of the wall or something. But yeah, Soul's a hot topic on Mercury.
Saying,
The sun is hot.
hot topic on Mercury. It's a really bad.
It was.
joke.
It was. Especially since it's only a hot topic on half the planet.
Yeah. That's.
Yeah.
All
right. So, well, I don't know about that. So another little thing to, yeah, there we go. That's a lot better. Another little bit of a snag that we have while we're attacking tries would be the Trinity. I have a huge problem with the Trinity because it doesn't make any sense. I don't care how you explain it. It is illogical. Any way you do explain it, you end up in some form of heresy. So I don't like it. I'm not a fan of it. I think it's a pretty piss poor excuse to explain. I mean, honestly, it's basically explaining polytheism. This is how come, like, I do get a bit of chuckles when, like, I'll go into a Christian TikTok, right, or a Christian live, or a Muslim one, and they'll be going at each other, and the Muslims will call the Christians polytheists. It's like, well, they don't think they are. But I have a hard time disagreeing with the Muslim. I mean,
when you break down, and yeah, like you said, there's no way to break down the Trinity and not be able to explain that as polytheism. It's impossible.
Well, okay. First off, when you mention angel, and I'm like, an angel, huh? All right, okay, we'll leave that it's a spirit. An angel's a spirit, messenger. Okay, it's not a god, but one that can become strong enough to challenge God, and one that somehow is either strong enough that God can't put him away, right, for good, or you better bust out one of those axioms for the existence of evil because God lets him just roam around tempting and all that. So the first answer is sounds like polytheism to me, though. The second one, it still kind of sounds like polytheism, but okay, strong spirit in an axiom that allows for this super powerful spirit that's evil. Yeah, it's just, and then I also have a problem with how can a god be in a human?
I don't think I've heard that one before. That's a new one.
Well, isn't that Jesus? It's God in human form.
Okay,
it's God. It's God in the flesh.
God in human form.
It's the Son in the flesh. That is Jesus.
Well,
it's God on earth.
Well, I was going to bring this up as just a thought turner, but since you've kind of already brought it up, I guess I can bring it up. So, barring that argument of Jesus just being God in human flesh form, I mean, if God is the son of, or if God is the son of Jesus, if Jesus is the son of God, that would take a real drastic turn.
I've heard weirder shit.
How thought-provoking would that be?
Or weirder shit.
So if Jesus is the son of God, and we go based on the basis of mythology that basically anyone born of a human and a god makes them a demigod, would Jesus be the equivalent of a Christian Hercules?
Yes, yes.
I like how your face just lit up. Like, yes,
It's because I've been
this is
saying
what I've
this,
been
like,
saying.
dude, I don't believe in demigods. I don't, I don't. It doesn't make sense to me. It really just doesn't. I'm sorry.
Well,
I
because
don't.
then I mean that right there. So if you take Christianity at, okay, you had God and then you had his son Jesus. That right there is enough to say polytheist. Because by definition, Jesus is God.
Now only because it's a heresy to say that God has different forms. And see, that's part of the so if you bring in, sorry, I just smacked the shit out of my mic because my cat jumped on my lap. Also, I guess here's my cat for everyone in video. Say hi, cat. Yes. All right, now we did it. His name is Pretty Kitty Cheeto Rodriguez. So the hard commitment to having to Tri-Omni traits while also maintaining the Trinity, it just leads to a lot of confusion, right? Because, cat, please don't hit the mic. Because because it's modalism to say that it's God in different modes, right? To say he's got his human mode or his God mode.
Right.
Or like his different phase, right? Or I think the common analogy is like water, right? How water can be steam, water can be ice, water can be a liquid. But again, that's just modalism, or because it's a different phase, a different mode or stage of existence. Oh man, I don't know. There's just so many. And see, the reason we bring up the Tri-Omni is because so many of the fallacies that we see in Christianity are derived with them being steadfast to the God having the Tri-Omni traits. And back before I was even pagan, right? That was part of my problem with Christianity as a agnostic. I was agnostic when I was looking into a lot of these. Is that it's just God can't have all three. There's problems, right? You got the problem of evil. You got the Euthyphro dilemma, which I actually did bring this one up so we could read it. Is the pious loved by the gods because it is pious, or is it pious because it is loved by the gods? And by it, he's referring to actions or people. But I do believe it is initially referring to actions. And this is, again, because, like, they need God's sovereignty is so vastly important to them, right? Because he's so all-powerful that nobody can command him if he's all-powerful, right? Nothing can have influence over his sovereignty at all. Either something is good, in this line of thought, something is good because the gods said so, or the moral, whoever dictates morality, right? But for a lot of Christians, it's God. Or is something like loved by God because it is good, in which case then God is no longer the one who dictates good. But the thing is, if it is the first way around, right, it's good because God says so, then it is just purely God's will that decides what is good. That could change. We don't know, right? And a lot of people are like, no, it can't change. God's all good. God's all powerful, and he decides what good is. So if he's all powerful and decides what good is, anything can be good at a drop of a hat. It's all arbitrary, right? Like it could just literally, and the classic thing is like, well, God could literally turn around and say that he likes killing babies and it's good to kill babies, right? And I think it's very weird that they always jump to that extreme, but I think it's kind of a counterpoint because that a lot of pagans get accused of human sacrifice and shit. So I think it's just kind of a poke back at them, but as a parent, I've always found it weird that we always jump to killing babies. I mean, I guess it is just clear cut evil, right? Objectively evil in most people's eyes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to like debunk that extreme without using like another extreme, like like it's like the whole go back and kill baby Hitler thing. Like, oh, he did so much evil in the world, but if you go back and kill baby Hitler, aren't you just
Could
simply
we
doing an
like
act of evil?
the big H?
Oh yeah, sorry, I just forget about that.
Yeah.
Sorry, YouTube.
Not that we're like monetized or anything, but yeah.
But
Would like
I mean,
to
yeah,
not
like
hinder our growth if possible. Maybe get some growth.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like it's hard. Like like I agree with you. Like as a parent, it is a bit much to go to that extreme for that argument, but at the same time, it's like, what? Like, how else do you get the point across, though? Like I don't know, like
Yeah, I know.
slaughtering kittens is
It's
good. Let's go
objectively
slaughter
it's an
kittens. Like,
objectively evil thing, right?
yeah, because I mean, like no matter
Yeah, but
what
then you
do,
can't say
like,
slaughtering
have to
kittens because
have.
then you'll have someone be like, well, what about on this island where the cats are exterminating all the birds? And it's actually a good thing to do it there because you're saving other animals. I guess that's why they don't do that, right? So people can't
Right.
do that cheeky shit.
But, I mean, you could objectively say that about us as human beings. We've exterminated.
All right, Beard. You could. I mean, you could. But so, damn it, I had another point I wanted to bring up. There was one last one. See, this is why I normally write down my notes. This, in case you guys haven't figured this out, this episode
any notes
was
for
a
this one.
little a wing in it. Well, mainly because it's just going to be us ranting about different aspects of Christian. Oh, now I remember what it is. Again, something's attacking the wall. I don't know what it is. I really don't know what it is with the people in my house lately. When I'm like, I'm recording, they're like, what? Loud noises. What? Original sin.
I don't know. Like
original
today
sin.
Cash has been. Oh God.
If your God has the Tri-Omni traits, he would know of a way for us to have us be born not already going to hell. Right? And you'll have some people be like, oh, no. And this is part of like, oh God, was it the age of Savior or whatever? And I think it's like 8 when a lot of kids started being baptized and all that. But it's like, well, you just kind of made that number up, didn't you? Right? Because in your doctrine, we are born in sin. We are born with the original sin. You just kept getting questioned about, hey, what about newborn babies? Why do they keep going to hell? And, the Catholics had the purgatory for a while to kind of deal with that, which kind of worked, I guess. Eyebrow is way the fuck up right now. But yeah, then they're just like, oh no, you got the age of acceptance or savior or consent or whatever the fuck they call it. I don't remember. I really don't. But that's when a lot of them get baptized around 8 now. It's an arbitrary number that they made up because literally in their theology, all of us are born in sin and therefore are going right to hell because of Eve rejecting God by eating the apple or eating the fruit. It was never specified as an apple, by the way. I just don't see how that clicks, especially since being more of a pagan myself, right? I align a lot more if there was going to be anything along that lines and we were made from God or God's image, I would definitely look more towards original blessing, which is if we're made in a God or God's image or images, or by their influence, we would, and this also it works better towards a Christian point of view, right? But so we'll use the Christian point of view, right? So if we're made in God's image, right? We're made from God in his image, a all-loving, all-knowing, all-powerful God. How the fuck would we end up with original sin? Shouldn't we all be born pure, like perfect, or as close to perfect as a human can be is at birth? And then it's the sin and the evil in the world that corrupts us, and then therefore would make us need Jesus. Like, if they were pushing that narrative, that tracks with me. But they push the opposite. It's literally the opposite. Right? That's just, you're born in sin, and you just get worse. It's like, you were never good until you got Jesus. And it's like, well, that doesn't sound like an all-loving parent.
Right. I mean,
or if it is an all-loving one, they didn't know how to go about doing it differently. Or if they did know how, and they really did love me and wanted me to do it, they were incapable of. And again, this is where it's just all like one of the traits got to go. One of them got to go. In order for their mythology to make sense to me, one of them has to go. Let's pull up the flood. Okay, I'll let you respond. Then we can hop to the flood where God kills the entire world because he loves us.
Because I have I mean, this is kind of along the same lines. I mean, this is a food for thought, bro, and this is me being super objective to this thought processing. So circling back to the extreme, like you said earlier, or the one extreme argument that's used that, baby Jesus, God says that, slaughtering babies is now good. Well, if by definition we're born with original sin, it would be a good thing because they're all going to hell. I know it is a very terrible, dark aspect to think about, but if every child is born with original sin, and because they haven't found Jesus yet, slaughtering, by the way that logic tracks, would make it okay. Which is a very dark, weird way to think about it.
But that is like the theoretical logical conclusions, though, and that's part of the problems.
Right. Exactly. Like, okay, so then by default, murder isn't evil.
I mean, you do have some of the Christians who used to say that, right?
Right. I mean,
like it wasn't murder. It was like
very
saving them
ones.
from their sins. Well, yeah. We're talking about extremes right now. In case that hasn't been clear to anyone, we're talking like almost this whole thing's been extremes. Like most of this episode.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's very hard to be like a middle of the road, like semi-decent person and like think in these extreme levels.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's also hard to be like a complete mythic literalist and not have some of these like come up and affect you. So, like for instance, and this will be the last one before we wrap it up here. You have the flood, where somehow, humanity has just become so bad that in all loving, right? So he loves everyone, wants the best for all of us, even if we become so bad, and all powerful, so is capable of doing anything he wants. And all knowing, so has the best answers possible, comes to the conclusion that flooding the entire world and drowning everybody, which is an objectively terrifying way to die, although I think most ways of dying are, but I think a quick heart attack and making us faint would be better, right? Like, oh, what do you know? The whole world just fell unconscious and passed out and died. I think that's a lot nicer than panicking as you try to find higher and higher ground until eventually you can't, and swim for as long as you possibly can until you eventually succumb to exhaustion, then fall down to the water and drown slowly. That doesn't sound very loving. I just, literally, I didn't think of this beforehand. I came up with my perfect solution, quote unquote, air quote, perfect solution on the spot, and I think it would be much better. And it also doesn't have logical problems afterwards. Like, now that every tree in this world has been drowned underwater for 40 days, how are we going to build stuff? Or not to mention all the plants that were drowned, so now we have nothing to eat. And also, you got the whole, like, how do kangaroos make it to Australia argument. Why is that the Noah's Ark mean? Like, if Noah's Ark was true, every single species on this planet comes from incest. There's only 2 of every species. You can branch down 1 step, and then somebody's sister has to look cute. That's fucking how it works, right? That's just like the entire every animal on the planet. Now I know rats and cats get a little crazy, but we mean every animal. Anyways, by the way,
that's where Darwin comes into play.
No, you have to remove Darwin from that because it doesn't make sense if you add Darwin.
It doesn't make sense if you don't.
The only thing I will cut some slack is if it was a miracle. Okay, it's a bit of a cop out, but
it was a miracle that they just happened not to come out with cross-eyed babies.
Yep. And I'll say it's a cop out, but I guess that's about the only.
That's fair.
I say it's bad that I'm saying a miracle is the only plausible explanation. That lets you know how low I think of the actual like global flooding story. Well, but anyways,
Beard. I mean, you take the flooding story, and just my last little thing I want to throw out there. Why did he tell just one guy?
Yeah,
like, you made it one guy's job to save 2 of everything. Like, come on.
There wasn't at least one other.
At least tell 2 guys. Like, you know.
You can't tell me that there wasn't like a decent family in China at that time too, right? Like, come on.
Right. Or like anywhere for that matter. Like there was one true believer guy out there that he could trust. Like he couldn't trust, half a dozen other people.
Yeah. It's sus.
There wasn't some like monastery high in the mountains that he could be like, hey, build me a boat. Nope. Save anyone you can.
Nope. One family. One dude. Had to gather them all.
And I'm going to put you on a tiny boat. Good luck.
Has anyone ever... Do you know how many species of snake exist? And you're going to put them on a boat? Fuck that. I'm out of here. I'm not getting on that boat. Fuck that.
Well, I mean, that like let alone like the number of insect species alone. Like there's like thousands of different kinds of spiders.
Can you imagine being the dude who has to go sex a flea to make sure you got a male and a female flea? Get us the fuck out of here, Beard. Get us out of here. I'm done.
Yeah, all right.
This is a male mosquito.
With that, you can
actually the male. Okay, I take that back. Male and female mosquito
where to
are different.
Find us on other things. Join our Facebook groups. Wisconsin here, Michigan there, Discord group, blah blah blah.
Links
before we get into having to check the links all in the Discord. Links all in the description, not the Discord.
Oh yeah, I forgot to bring it up this week. Obviously we didn't do it this week, but we're probably going to start doing all of our like links and intros and where to find us at the start of the episode, because analytics are showing that not many people listen to the very end. So we want you guys to check out our Discord and shit. So we're going to say it at the beginning. But
we
forgot that this week.
Make a note of that. Bye.
Deuces, y'all. Tri-Omni bullshit.